Now is the time. A time you'll look back on. A time you adopt as inspiration. You will recollect this time. This moment, right now. Motivate yourself towards success. Overcome. Take over. The time is now.
Hello, hello.
Back. Hello. And welcome to another United special. Now, for those of you in the chat that don't know about the United specials, they are a little bit of a series that myself and Daz kind of thought about and put together to basically do what we've always done on Loaded Mag NUFC. In that we always wanted to hear the opinions of other Newcastle United, podcasts, YouTube channels. There's so many out there, so much great content, and we're really excited about tonight because one of the top Newcastle United YouTube channels that are about the Magpie Channel have agreed to join us. So look, it's a fantastic opportunity for them to come and join us, and we're going to get down to it with Matty in just a second. But Daz, how are you after a fantastic show with Semra Hunter yesterday? Really enjoyed that. How's things?
All's good. Yep. Back at work again today, but yeah, all good. It was a great show last night, great chat, and before that, there was the review show, and before that again, there was the way there. So yeah, we've been busy the last couple of days, and we continue to operate at 80% with Martin. Martin will be back with us in September, so he'll be up for another few weeks. But actually, there's something I should have mentioned to you as well, Pete, before the start of the show. I want to give a shout out to Paul from the Toon Review. Paul. Get a bit of a bother there during the last few days, but hopefully he's back on track now again. So just from everyone knows we're in collaboration with Paul as well. So we will get back to shows with Paul hopefully in the near future. But just a shout out from all the boys from us. So get well soon, Paul.
Definitely. To be fair, I spoke to Paul over the weekend. Just dropped him a message. He got back to me and just said, he's obviously on the mend, but it was something that was quite serious, to be fair. So, like you said, best wishes, and we'll be collaborating in the near future, no doubt. So, keep an eye on things going and shows coming up for that. But as we said, we've got Matty from the Magpie Channel. Let's get him in. Let's not waste any time, Daz.
He's not drank all the beer, is he? In the group, we'll have no left for the rest of the week.
You've got to share.
Hey, Matty, welcome.
Yeah. Buongiorno, lads. How are we doing?
Buongiorno.
Oh, good. Great to have you on, mate. Like I said, we're speaking in the green room before. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. We spoke over the weekend and managed to sort out a time that suited for you to come and join us. Look, let's be honest. We're only just over a year old. Loaded Mag NUFC, and absolutely for sure, even before we even managed to create our sort of YouTube channel, we were and continue to still watch the Magpie Channel. So look, you're a fantastic channel. Appreciate all the content you've done. Just how long have you been going, and how did it kind of all come about? You starting the channel and getting up and running to what it is now.
Well, big up, lads. Appreciate that, man. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a few years now. Unfortunately, lost the first channel, but had about 10,000 subscribers due to technical issues. So I didn't let go of that. And then the new channel has been about 3 years old now, I think. But the last year, I didn't really do that much on it. So I was down south doing a master's degree, and before that, I was living in Dubai. So now we're really trying to push the channel a lot. Do you know what I mean? Take it seriously this year. Fan cams at every single home game. Watch-alongs for every away game that we don't get up to. And then just daily videos, really. Daily videos on Newcastle United news, transfer links, reactionary videos, everything. It just grew from it grew from basically watching the likes of Arsenal Fan TV and thinking someone should be doing that in Newcastle. Someone should be interviewing the fans, like fans that were walking past the stadium. And then from there, it just kicked on, snowball effect from podcasts and then match reviews. And then it just grew. And then obviously lockdown, bit of StreamYard, bit of stuff like this. And then, yeah, to where it is now, it's crazy how far it's went, how much it's built. Obviously, I do stuff with DR Sports and Sky Sports and BBC and all sorts. So it's class, man. I loving the progress, to be honest.
Nice. And Matty, I was over there. I live in Ireland, so I don't get to go over to that many matches. But I saw you. You're doing the fan cams. I was actually expecting you to put on your Spider-Man costume and do a bit of beatboxing, but that wasn't happening. I saw you there with the microphone, and you were interviewing the fans as they were coming out of the stadium. How's that been since you went back at that again?
It's been so good, man. Like, it's so good to be back in Newcastle. Like, I was just down the Teesside yesterday, just loving life, man. Just being in this city again is unbelievable. Doing the fan cams, it's just like a different place now. Since the takeover, it's just a completely different place because the buzz in the air. Like, we were doing fan cams and what, drawing 0-0 every week, getting beat 2-0, Brucey ball. Everyone was fed up. Everyone was coming out of the ground angry, just wanting to get to home or get to the pub. You know what I mean? But now, everyone's around the place, hours before kick-off, hours afterwards. The atmosphere is electric in and around St. James's Park, and it's just a complete different place. Now, the buzz is real. Everyone's happy and bouncing, and it's class to be able to connect with fans like that now.
Definitely. Honestly, when me and Daz were there, like yourself, for the Forest game, I think that's the first time in God knows how long that I've actually been to St. James's Park and walked into that ground and not had any nerves about the game. Walked in with just hope and excitement, and like you said, the atmosphere is so different. It was like, it almost felt to me like we were going into a match that was like a semi-final of a cup or a final of a cup. It had that kind of that atmosphere, that sort of build. And it was a great day, great to be back. Obviously, St. James's Park. It was fantastic. But look, we'll kind of segue slightly on to just a quick sort of review of the game on Saturday. I'm not sure. I don't know if you were there. Did you go to the Amex?
No, I wasn't.
But obviously, it was billed as going to be one of those games, those sort of tough games. Brighton. We haven't had the best record there. I think with 3 defeats, 2 draws. We only beat them last season at home for the first time in the Premier League, which was mad. But I just want to get your just quick sort of review and opinion of the game. Obviously, we got a 0-0 draw. We got a point. What's your feelings on that?
Poor performance, good result. That's how I would summarise it. I mean, it's we really didn't perform. There was a 10-minute spell between about 15 to 25 minutes where I thought, well, we look good. Almiron was getting in down the right-hand side. Maxi had the odd chance, and we just didn't turn up. For me, though, the midfield was the worst I've seen it in a long time, to be honest. The midfield was non-existent. I thought, obviously, Nick Pope was outstanding. Botman was decent on his debut. But apart from that, we just didn't click. I don't know if it was the heat? Were the players absolutely done in? Brighton were playing in the same heat, and they were decent. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know what it was, but we just didn't turn up. But you're going to have days like that. You're going to have days like that. It's only the second game of the season. But going to Brighton, you mentioned it, bogey side. It really is one of our bogey sides. We've never won in the Premier League at the Amex, and they're always close games. I called it in the preview. I said it was going to be a draw. We've got a draw written on it. It's a printing money. Yeah. Printing money when we play Brighton, just put a draw on. But for me, like I said, the lads didn't turn up, but I'll take the point all day long because Brighton are a well-drilled side. Potter's doing an unbelievable job. And the spanked Man United the week before, which I suppose isn't hard these days, but they're a good side. Yeah.
And that's the thing. They're a good side. They'll be up and around the mid-tables again. And look, it was. I think it was a weird situation after the game because the media were kind of like almost pointing the finger at Newcastle, like, "Oh, we expect you to beat them. We expect you to be this, team that goes around beating everybody." Now that was poor from Newcastle. And then you got fans on the other side saying, "Hold on, that's a fantastic point. It's not easy to go there and all the rest of it." So for me, there was a little bit of middle ground. I think you're the same, Matty, and I think Daz would agree with that as well, is that we're in that middle ground. Yes, we would have loved to have beat them and really kind of prove a point and let everyone stand up and take notice. But, like you said, we had the injury issue with Target that would have thrown how we'd have set up the team on Saturday. We had the issue with the heat. unfortunately, I think fans in the away end that were kind of passing out from the heat. It was really, really extreme, as we've all faced. And sometimes you have to kind of weigh it up. And actually, in the grand scheme of things, I think it'll be quite an interesting point, that's for sure. But look, one thing aside, it's about the game, but it's kind of aside. And I want to get both your opinions on this, actually. And I'm just going to say it as kind of bluntly as this. At around 75 minutes, I don't know the exact time it happened, but when the camera panned to Wood and Murphy coming onto the pitch, what were your thoughts during that game?
I'll answer first. I think my stream probably died at that point because my head would have dropped. But I suppose, I think I said it in our review show, we would have saw Wood on earlier had we gone behind, and we were lucky to come away at the point of that game. But yeah, it's what I know what you're getting here, please. We don't have options on the bench to change it up, and that's why the last 2.5 weeks in the transfer window is vital. And we'll get on to some of the names in the last couple of days, or even the last couple of hours. But we need something off the bench to change up a game here. We can't. We have no strength and depth at all. Even for what we have on the pitch, we need to mix it up. As I think I've said it before, I'd like to see the likes of Joe Willock coming on as a sub. I'd like to see a different option for Miggy at times as well, and I'd like to see, just when inevitably Wilson gets injured, just have someone there that can start in other than Chris Wood.
Definitely. Matty, your thoughts on that?
I thought the starting 11 was really good, even with Byrne deputising at left back like he did for Brighton in the past. But that bench is lifting, man. Let's be honest, it's absolutely lifting. It's nowhere near good enough. Because you look at that bench and you've got no game changers. Yeah. Whether you're losing, whether you're trying to hold on to a lead, there's nothing you can do. We can't even come up with a plan B because we haven't got the personnel to do so. That's why we're only going to sign 1 or 2 more players this window max, but we need more. We seriously need more, because a couple of injuries and then now our pursuit of top 6, top 8 is over for me. We know Wilson's going to get injured at some point, and if Chris Wood comes on and he's the one to try and get you goals, then you may as well just sack it off. May as well just forfeit now, because we're going to need more options off the bench, way more options. So it's important that we get 1 or 2 forwards in for me this window. The injury to Shelby as well hasn't helped, because for me, I struggle to see what Sean Longstaff brings to the team. I really do. Doesn't do it for me. So there's work to be done in the squad, definitely.
Yeah, I have to agree. And look, it was kind of, saying this tongue in cheek, it was kind of loaded, that question, because I was thinking about that, asking you both with that same thought that you both said in my mind as well. Is that you're looking at that bench and it almost, at that point in which they both came onto the pitch, it almost was like, right, okay, we're not winning this game. We're playing for a point. And that was it, because at that point you're taking our best striker off and you're taking someone off on the wing. I'm not sure if it was, I think it might have been St. Maximin actually came off for him. And you're taking off those that, even if they weren't playing well, could still have come up with that one moment of brilliance that could win you the game. And you're almost kind of, sacrificing that. And it just, if anything, heightened the fact that we need more players in the team. And I think Fumby in the chat there, Daz put it up a second ago. He put his thoughts were that we need more signings, and I 100% agreed. Doug Hall has said his thoughts were that we didn't have a plan B. It was, it's just one of those that it's clear, very, very clear that we need signings. And look, Matty, you've talked about it. You've just mentioned it, that, it's looking at, as we're getting to the last 2.5 weeks of the window, we need at least a couple of new attacking reinforcements. I kind of like more, if I'm honest with you, and I'm sure you're the same. But it looks like we're probably going to get maybe 1 or 2. Now, look, in your opinion, kind of what, with the players, bearing in mind that we've already signed, what would kind of consist of a successful window for you by the time it slams shut on the 1st of September?
The winger and the striker. I think we need both, whether that be one on loan and one permanently. We need a winger and a striker because Almiron's end product again has been proven it's not good enough in the Premier League. He had a great pre-season, 6 goals, nice one. It's a different story in the Premier League. Gets into good areas. He's got more confidence now. He looked good in spells in the last 2 games, but he gets into the box. I've got no confidence in him scoring or assisting. So for me, we need a right winger, and then we need a striker to back up Wilson. So anything less than them two, I still wouldn't think it was been that good of a window because we're strengthened defensively in Pope and Botman, Target we had last season. But the main thing we needed this window was forwards. We yet to get them, but keep the faith there. Still 2 weeks to go. We'll keep the faith, even though everyone's projecting every bit.
Look, we're the Newcastle United fan base. It's kind of what we do. It's almost everything's kind of scanned and reviewed under a fine-tooth comb whenever a little bit of information comes out about a deal. And look, let's get into it now because we had a little bit of news pop out this afternoon from Sky Sports, a little bit of breaking news, and it was that Joao Pedro, the forward from Watford, Newcastle have had a £20 million bid rejected for the Brazilian forward. I'll be honest with you, it came left field for me. I wasn't expecting Joao Pedro to be linked with Newcastle United. What are your initial thoughts on that, Matty, with regards to that particular link?
I'm the same. I mean, he hasn't been linked, has he, all summer? But this is going to be the case. We've been linked with about 4,500 players, and it'll be someone that has never been spoken about. So, but honestly, Pedro for me, I'll be honest with you, is just meh. It's an underwhelming signing. I don't think we'll even sign him because it looks like Watford don't want to sell. But Joao Pedro, is that where we're at now? Like for me, that's the worst Watford forward we could have signed. Dennis has gone to Forest, would have rather had him. Saw's still there, would rather have him. Pedro, 3 goals last season, 1 assist. Doesn't do anything for me. That doesn't do anything. I mean, hopefully, obviously, if he comes back, and how maybe we'll get a tune out of him. He's only 20 years old. He can play across the front 3. For what I've seen of him, yes, no, not exciting.
It's an interesting point that Matty said, Daz, and I'll come to you with that just because the one thing that he said is that he's not even the best of the attacking Watford like strikers that we could have signed. Matty talked about Emmanuel Dennis, who looks to be on the verge. I think they're just waiting to rubber stamp the deal to go for 20 million to Nottingham Forest. If you had the choice, would you be going for Joao Pedro, or would you have wanted Emmanuel Dennis instead if you had the option of the two?
Yeah, well, Dennis would have been more proven, and he's dangerous. We've seen it before, but I guess when I first heard the name this evening, I said, "Who that?" Is he? I couldn't remember who he was, so I had to look at a few different clips, and I go, him, yeah. And I said, and my next reaction, I thought he was about 26. He looks an awful older than he is. And then I thought to myself, okay, I know his reaction is, if you look at his record, poor record, but he can kind of play as a winger as well, and he'd fit into that mold. And could Eddie Howe get a tune out of him? We are going down in the pecking order from the heights that I had at the start of the transfer window to where we are now, but it seems to be where we are. And a bid went in, so there was something that they really thought seriously about it. So wouldn't be my top choice, but I think Eddie Howe must see something he can get out of him. And again, they're going for this. Then he'd be kind of a replacement for Hugo Wakiteki, but then if 20 million isn't accepted, and I'll bring up the other picture here as well. If 20 million isn't accepted, they have to go to 25. So, and if you're talking about 25, why not go back in for Ramos and say give 30 million for him? I'd rather go down that route, I think. But we'll see how it plays out. It'll be poker between here and the next 2.5 weeks.
Definitely. And look, talking about 25 million bid, Craig Hope tweeted out probably about 40 minutes ago and said that Newcastle are not put off about the fact that Watford have said that he is not for sale, and they're looking at potentially coming back in with around sort of 25 million for Joao Pedro. So it's definitely one that's got some legs. It's definitely one to keep an eye on. But again, I think you're not the only one, Matty. I think there's a number of Newcastle fans that are a little bit initially shocked to go, what? And then to go, is that really the striker that we need to be bringing off the bench or to be using if Wilson is injured for a long period of time? Is he going to be getting the goals? You've just mentioned his goal return wasn't great last season. He has potential. He's only 20 years old. He has improved on the other areas of his game. His hold-up play, his link to play is good. We saw last season he's good in the air. He can score a header. He scored that late equaliser against us at St James's Park. So he has those attributes, but it's whether, I don't know about you guys, but in my mind, I saw us going not necessarily for. Initially, I thought that we'd go for a striker that was better than Wilson and try and better ourselves. Yeah. But it was very clear then, early on in the summer, that Wilson was going to be the main man. So what I was expecting is someone that's played and scored a number of goals in the Premier League that would be able to kind of be comfortable battling for their place. And in my mind, I had Armando Broja, who's still linked with us, that could come in. I thought he would be perfect for a similar age to Joao Pedro, but I just there are question marks for me about Joao Pedro. But again, we'll kind of see how that one unfolds. But Daz has talked about Goncalo Ramos. How much do you know about Goncalo Ramos, Matty? Are you intrigued by that signing more than Joao Pedro? And
absolutely.
What do you think?
Absolutely more intrigued than Ramos. What's happened to Ramos? Because apparently the 25 million bid was coming, the 30 million bid was coming. He was coming this week, and then now we're going into Pedro. Must have been getting mixed signals from Benfica, but Ramos is a lot more exciting than Pedro. I mean, he's touted by loads of clubs across Europe. He scored a hat-trick in the Champions League qualifiers last week. He scored against Liverpool last season. He scored against us in a friendly a couple of weeks ago last month. So I'd much rather have Ramos. Portuguese. He knows where the back of the net is more than Pedro. He's quite different to Pedro in a way, because Pedro drops deep and has like an athletic build and likes to progress with the ball, whereas Ramos is more in and around the box and beating his man, like a more technical kind of player. But Ramos is a much bigger talent than Pedro for me. But maybe with Newcastle taxes getting raised up again by Benfica, maybe they've looked and thought, well, they're going to pay 25 with it. We'll see if they'll pay 35. Because it's just, when does it end? Do you know what I mean? Like, when's it going to end? He was meant to be coming, and then all of a sudden now, we haven't heard anything, and we're going in for Pedro. But I'd much rather have Ramos.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, it's interesting, Daz. I'll come to you on this. Is that with a lot of these deals, and with the Ramos deal, for example, a lot of it is coming from the Portuguese press. We're not getting a lot from any of the media really in Newcastle. Do you think maybe that's down to Ashworth kind of keeping things very in-house from a Newcastle perspective? Or do you think that actually it's maybe, it's a case of it is going on in the background and only the Portuguese news are coming out with the information? Or is it all hype to, as Matty said, bring up the price?
I think Dan Ashworth is keeping a close book on this. Since it came in, it did go quiet for a while, and it's kind of coming from the country in question that we're trying to deal with, bring the player in from. Yeah, true. You couldn't blame Benfica either if they're trying to get that last bit for the player. They cleaned up with Darwin Núñez already, so if they were going to cash in on Ramos, you can't blame them. But the thing that's frustrating, I imagine it's frustrating everybody, is we went with the bid, and let's say 30 million, and then we know that 35 million will get the player, and well, at least we think that 35 million will get the player. We never go there. Then we move on to someone else. It's just kind of, we keep chopping and changing, and we're always trying to get the deal at the price we want the player. It's like that little video where your man goes into the shop and he's buying a can of Coke or something, and then they say it's £1, he goes 50p and walks out with it. It's like that. We want to get it for the price that we want, and we just have to go that little bit to get someone over the line. Here we go. No afraid, some blast from past.
Oh, don't bring the Pardew error up again. Jesus Christ, that over the line used to drive me mad. But look, it's a really interesting situation. I tweeted out earlier when the Joao Pedro link came out, and I just put this is going to the wire, because I just think I going into it last week, I thought, right, we're going to go for Ramos, we're going to go for one of the Chelsea players, and we might look at, if we can move one or two players on, we might get like another cheap deal. I'm still thinking we could potentially get 3 players here. I might be completely out of it. I still think we need 3 players. I think we might get 3 players, but the way it's going, I don't know what to expect, and that's maybe a good thing, because we could be surprised. The links with Lucas Paqueta and James Maddison are still there. It's still a talking point within the Leicester fan base about Maddison potentially going, even though there's talks of Fofana. The Lucas Paqueta conversation has not gone away since January, and it's ramped up in the last couple of weeks. But it's one of them that we'll definitely keep an eye on. But just as we break slightly for the transfer talk, I noticed we've got some questions in the comments for Matty. I don't know if you want to throw a couple his way.
There's so many comments. Okay, let me see. Let me get a good one.
Put the specs on for this one.
Would you be angry if we didn't sign anyone else in the transfer window, or happy to go with what we have?
I wouldn't know if angry would be the right word, but I'd be disappointed. Because Mana Stevie can't come out when she bought the club and said they want to win the league in 5 to 10 years, and then not sign a forward and have Chris Wood on the bench. Where we're going with that? It's going to take ages if you want to put that to 15, 20 years if we're not going to spend any money this window, because it's only going to increase the gap. You've seen West Ham have made some brilliant signings this window. You've got Arsenal looking better, Spurs looking better, Chelsea will still spend. You've got all the clubs that are in and around there. I think Aston Villa's squad's way better than what they're achieving under Gerrard. So there's a lot of work to be done, to be honest. Like we mentioned before, the bench, a couple of injuries, and we're knackered. So I wouldn't be angry, but I'd be disappointed. It's massively important that we upgrade on Alexa Valmiera and Chris Wood.
Yeah. Speaking of Chris Wood, I'm here from Fumby. If I had a choice between Dennis and Pedro, I'd choose Wood. But Fumby should be a comedian.
Brilliant. I like what you did there, Daz.
Just also thanks to Roy for the super sticker. Thanks, Roy.
Top man, Roy.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
There could be some more questions, Pete, but I haven't got to that far down the picking order yet. So I will get there, and I'll star a few more.
No, that's absolutely fine. Just another quick question in there. There's one, I think. I'll just throw from Liam. Will we sign anyone before Wolves away, do you think? That's an interesting one, because I think Wolves away is the weekend just before the end of the window, if I'm right. What are you thinking about that?
Surely. I think we will. I think we'll probably have one in before Wolves, and then we'll probably get a loan later on, maybe even deadline day. Or you might even be right. If we can shift some players out, then deadline day we could sign another player, and we could be looking at 3 players through the door, because there's loads of players on the books that need to leave. There's still loads of deadwood at the club, especially in midfield, that aren't going to get a chance, like Matty Longstaff and that, and even Federico Fernandez. Like, these players are not going to get anywhere. We've got 4 goalkeepers at the minute still. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of work that needs to be done. So I would imagine we'll sign a striker hopefully before Wolves, whether that be Ramos, whether that be Pedro, or someone we've not even heard of yet, not even been mentioned. It could be anybody. But I'd hope and pray that we'll get a forward in before Wolves. I mean, it doesn't massively matter that we don't get one this week, I think, because Man City, zero expectancy there to get anything out of the game. But Wolves is a ground we can go to and get a good result, I think, because they haven't looked too good. So we can get a forward in, hopefully.
How about this? I'm going to go off something that Paul Oxley said. Okay, if we got Joao Pedro in and sent Wood the other way, and then go for another striker on top of that, that's something that people would find acceptable.
I'd be all up for that. I mean, Chris Wood, I don't know why we didn't just give Wood back to Burnley for Maxwell Cornet. I would have done that.
Yeah.
Definitely I would have done that. There you go. Have your beloved Chris Wood back and have top goal scorer and all that. And then we'll take Cornet, because that's another one who slipped through the cracks for me.
Yeah, decent option.
You're right. I'd have gone as far as giving them Wood back and still paid them an additional 10 million just to get the deal done. That's how much I think we should have done that in terms of, because look, Wood did a good job for us last season. I don't think any Newcastle fan will forget that. When we didn't have a striker, he worked his socks off for us. But we're looking in a different direction now. And if I think we're honest with ourselves, like I think the three of us are, he's not what we need to take Newcastle United forward. But just sticking on some of those players that could potentially move on, do you think, in your opinion, that Jacob Murphy will still be here after the transfer window?
I do. And for me, Murphy, he wouldn't be high up on the list to get rid of. I know his end product was missing. He loves hitting the post. Someone needs to tell him that that's not the aim of the game. It's not jumping at the goal posts. Do you know what I mean? He needs to change that up. It's not the crossbar challenge. He's not in soccer AM, right? He needs to switch that up. But for me, Murphy he's an alright squad player. He's versatile. He can play in different positions. Play him against Tranmere or something in the cup. Do you know what I mean? It's not that bad for Murphy. I mean, I think he'll still be because I don't think there's enough time to replace that many players. But the ones I listed before, there's a lot. There's a lot that need to go still.
Yeah, I would agree. We've not even talked about the likes of, like I say, you got Matt Ritchie, Mankillian.
I think he will leave. I think Ritchie will leave.
There's been talk that he really wants to leave. He wants to go back to the South Coast, but because we're still waiting for that additional winger to come in, that's almost gonna, if we get that winger in, that's almost gonna be able to release him and they'll let him go. I mean, he's nowhere near getting even any minutes for Newcastle United. It's kind of almost seems like a bit of a waste of a space in the squad. But just an additional question for you. We talked about and you mentioned John Joe Shelby actually, and obviously he's injured, so it's a bit of a blow for Newcastle, particularly on midfield options. But there was a lot of talk around him being added into the 25-man squad, even though he's going to be out for 12 weeks. Would you be putting him in your 25-man squad, or would you be taking him out to potentially get someone in? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd still stick him in the squad because the good thing is, or the bonus this season for us in the Shelby situation, is the World Cup. So obviously when the World Cup is on in November, December, Shelby will be having like another pre-season, if you like. So he's going to have a few weeks to be at the training ground every day, getting his fitness up, and you're allowed to play friendlies as well. Premier League teams are allowed to arrange friendlies during the World Cup for the players that aren't representing the countries. So he could be playing against Gateshead, against whoever you like. Do you know what I mean? So I'll join in, we'll join in. We're going to the training ground, make numbers if we have to. Do you know what I mean? You never think about it. Get his fitness. So for me, I'd keep Shelby in there because once you hit December, you're going to come back from the World Cup. There's still half the season left. So I definitely put him in there. It's a shame for Shelby because he was looking really good in pre-season, the sharpest and fittest he's ever been apparently. So unlucky his injury was untimely against Benfica.
No, definitely. Daz, would you be putting him in your 25-man squad?
Well, like from playing Football Manager, I know you can re-edit your 25-man squad come the end of the January window, I think it is, or something like that. But so I probably wouldn't. But because we're not doesn't look like we're bringing in to that many, maybe I would. Depends on who we bring in. But if I needed to make space, yeah, I'd leave him out because he was, as Matty said, he was flying it. He did extra training on his holidays and everything to get ready. And he would have been a star for us now, but it's just unfortunate the way he got injured. So yeah, no, it'll take some time to get back up to speed again.
Definitely. Interesting question, actually, that you got on there, Daz, from Fumby. He's put, the problem is we've started so well, 4 points from 2 games, not conceded a goal. If we'd have started like Man U, we would have been more active. Would you agree with that? Do you think we would have been more active, or do you think the patience that the new ownership and the likes of Dan Ashworth have got? Do you think we would have still kind of been a little bit more reserved in the market?
I could see us doing the same thing. I don't think the earlier results they have a game plan and they're sticking to it. That game plan may change in the last week of the window, but I hope it does a bit. But no, they're sticking to their plan, I think.
Not affecting. Interesting. Another just a question that's popped up for you, Matty. We lost him.
We just lost Matty.
Okay. I think he was having some problems. He'll sort that out. But look, we'll put it on anyway for you, Daz, and I'll get Matty's thoughts when he comes back on.
Sure.
He's put, is the structured spread out payments letting us down, getting players in? Are they? He's just messaging me. He'll be back in a second. Is the structured payments letting us down? And are teams wanting more upfront? Yes, in Carl's opinion, something isn't right.
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so. I think there has to be a way to do a deal, and I wouldn't say that's the issue. I think it's the overall package that is the selling clubs are turning up their nose at, and our willingness only to go so far and not go any further. And I know it's a good way to be. We don't. The opposite of that is Chelsea, where you just go start off at 40 million, then 60 million, then you're looking at 80 million, and that's just absolutely nuts. So you have to meet clubs as well halfway a bit, just to get the deal over the line. Yeah.
This was a question, Matty, before you nipped out. It just said, is the structured spread out payments that we're now paying for players letting us down in getting players? Are teams wanting more up front? In Carl's opinion, something doesn't seem right. Are you kind of sharing those same thoughts?
Yeah, that's why we couldn't get James Maddison. I know he said over the line there, apologies styles, but I pulled out of it. So that is why we couldn't complete the signing of James Maddison, because Leicester would happily accept £50 million in cash up front right now. Newcastle are offering 45, and it's all staggered payments. It's 10 million this season, 15 million the next. Loads of teams aren't going to sign up for that because Leicester would want their replacement for Maddison now. They're not going to be able to do that if you're offering them 10 million this window and 10 million in January. That's why it's not happening. I mean, we did the same thing with Nick Pope. To be fair, we put staggered payments in for Nick Pope, and he was only 12 million. But we didn't pay him 12 million up front. We did it in staggered payments. So it is a question mark. It is, but it's a way of getting around FFP, because then with the Sven Botman deal, it's only working out at around £5-7 million a year. So the Noon shirt sponsor is £7.5 million a year. If that's for a few years, then that pays for Sven Botman over the course of his contract. So it's smart, but it's also why we haven't been able to get loads of players over the line.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Those I think a lot of those clubs are used to our old ownership, where Mike Ashley would pay the lump sum up front. It'd be a slightly smaller fee that we'd have to pay, but we'd have to pay it all up front. I think those stagger payments are meaning that they're asking for more because they're not getting that money. And I think you made a really, really good point about the James Maddison situation. And for the fact I'm based in Leicester, and so I can kind of rub it into the Leicester fans, if we did sign him, I would love for us to go back and get that. But the one thing with Leicester is that they need that money right now. They are skint. They've got no money to work with. The stagger payments are no good for them in years to come because they need to buy players this summer. And I think that's why they're asking for so much. There was talk that, although Sky mentioned that the 60 million valuation was there for Maddison, they actually came around and said they wanted 80. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But for me, I wouldn't be surprised because they want that money. They're playing hardball with Fofana at the moment. I think it came on Sky about 20 minutes ago that Fofana's come out and said that he's unsettled, or they've said that he's unsettled, and that he's trying to force his way out. So it's all up in the air at the moment, and things are a little bit mad.
And just one comment here from PDK in the chat is really not happy with this transfer window, but he's Ashworth out is the message. I think it's a bit early for that. Just remember, where we come from.
I've seen someone reply to the tweet that I just put out actually about tonight's show and so on. It might have been him, to be fair, or they put out a tweet replying to you saying, is Ashworth still on gardening leave? Because he hasn't been so I don't know. I'll judge him 1st of September.
Yeah. I think that's more than fair. And look, he hasn't even had a full window because he came in a few weeks into it. I think we'd already agreed the Matty Target deal, and I think the Pope one was already in the works. So it was, it's one of them where he's not really had a full window to work his magic. He's still getting his feet under the table. I wouldn't lay it at Dan Ashworth's floor.
No. And there's so much hype as well. Look at the hype of the takeover, the hype of the January transfer window, the hype then going into the summer. Oh, this is going to be the window that we look at. I admit I was like that myself. I just thought, but you just have to lower your expectations and realize it is a project. It is going to take time. Look at okay, Amanda probably didn't help when she said we're going to win the league in 5 years' time. But we have to kind of be a bit more realistic as well with things, and maybe it'll take a bit of time.
Definitely. Look, get your questions in. I think there's some more comments and questions coming in that we'll ask Matty and we'll ask around the table. If you haven't already, click that thumbs up. It makes the world of difference to us. It gives more people the opportunity to see our show, and the fact that Matty's joined us tonight talking all things Newcastle. Have to say, Matty, it's been brilliant talking to you so far. Great insight as always, and really, really good opinions. And you can already see lots of comments in the chat that are obviously really appreciating you coming on and joining us. So look, get your questions in.
I have one, Pete. I have one. Yeah. I want to link it to a question here, and I know Matty did a video on it earlier because I was watching it. So I want to give you, Matty, and I know your answer, but it was a good answer. So I'm gonna give you 4 Chelsea players. I'm going to sit you down with Amanda and Mirdad in the Chelsea box and say, who do you want? You can have any of these 4 players, or you can even bring in 2. You can have Broja, you can have Christian Pulisic, you can have Conor Gallagher, or you can have, where he is he? Hudson-Odoi. Who are you taking and why?
Great question.
See, it is a tough one when you sum it up, isn't it? I think Conor Gallagher is the best we've seen so far in the league in terms of numbers. Like last season at Crystal Palace, what was it, 8 goals? He was outstanding. Plenty of assists. He looked the best player on the pitch in a majority of games that Palace played. Got his England call up, didn't look out of place there. So for him, it would probably be him, but where Newcastle are at in terms of that right winger, we tend to go for Hudson-Odoi because I think his potential is enormous. Like, he's shown in the Champions League at that level that he's that good, that he's got a Champions League baller as well. Good touch. He's shown it that he can score goals and assists in the best competition in the world. Bayern Munich wanted him for 60 million a couple of seasons ago, and Chelsea rejected that. Like, he's a huge talent. All of them could offer something to us, though, without a doubt. Broja up top is a handful. I was impressed with him at Southampton. He petered off towards the end of the season, but so did they as a team. And then Pulisic actually gets us excited as well, to be honest. When them links came out yesterday, I think he's mad underrated because it hasn't really kicked off for him at Stamford Bridge as much as they would have liked. But again, he scored in the Champions League semi-final. He scored in FA Cup final. He's got bags of talent as well. So the way we are, take any one of them. But if I had to pick, I'll go Gallagher.
Okay. You could have had 2. You just took 1. Yeah. So that's fair enough. You can have 2.
40 million. I'll have Hudson-Odoi on loan.
Daz, I want to ask you. I want to throw your question to you. Okay. I want to know who out of those choices of Chelsea players would you pick?
Grant. No problem. And Matty seemed to convince me a bit in his video earlier as well. So, but I'm going to go to purchase because I think he's the only one we'd be able to. Well, with Broja, we could afford him as well. But is Conor Gallagher? I'll go for him. And I know Chris from the channel thinks we've moved past Conor Gallagher. I don't think we have. Conor Gallagher was on our lips for so long that we wanted to bring him into Newcastle. Every game I've seen him play, he's played really well, except the game he played against us. We really controlled him in the game when we played him. Maybe that's a bit Eddie Howe magic, but he was just. I think he's great. Whether he'll move to Newcastle, I'm not so sure. But I don't like the sound of 40 million. But 40 million it seems to be the going rate every time we try to go for a midfielder, or it's the amount we would put in for a midfielder. So we could potentially get him. So I'd buy him, and then I would loan Christian Pulisic, and he could play on the wing. And Matty, you made a great point in your video. Actually, make sure to check out that video. But it's the marketing side of, because he's a USA international. He's the captain as well for USA, and he wanted to go to the World Cup. He'll be up for it. So get him on loan, and even if you could get a loan to buy option with bringing him in, I think it'd be. He came from Borussia Dortmund, where he was tearing it up. He was like one of the best around at the time, and he just hasn't really got a chance at Chelsea, and he's just not fancied now there. So I think that's the two I'd bring in. Pete, back to you with that question.
I was going to try to segue out, so I didn't have to answer it. Look, without question, my first choice would be this man right here. Now, the one thing that we've cried out for, Matty said it earlier on in the show, Daz, we've said it for a number of weeks now, even in the build up to the new season, that we need someone that's going to make a difference. It's going to be able to be the difference maker in our attacking lineup. Christian Pulisic can do everything. I couldn't believe he's still 23 years old. Unreal. Like, he's still got the rest of his career to still play at the highest level. He's the United States of America captain, so he's got that leadership. He's got that experience, even for someone so young. And like I said, he's a match winner. He's got the skill, the creativity, and the ability to find the net. And I would have him just ahead of Callum Hudson-Odoi. Callum Hudson-Odoi has got massive potential, but it's dipped slightly since that link with Bayern Munich went away. So I think Christian Pulisic 100%. This is where I have the issue, and it's between this man, Brozier, and Conor Gallagher. And this is where it's really hard for me to choose which of the other two I would pick. Now, I think personally we need a backup for Callum Wilson because we can't trust his injuries, although I love the guy so much. He's a top level for me. He's a top 7, top 8 striker in the Premier League for me. He's that good, but you just can't trust his injuries. So I feel like we need a backup, and someone like Brozier, although he's still young, has proven last season he can score goals in the Premier League. However, you want someone from midfield that can get goals. Now, we want this guy ultimately because he's Bruno's best mate. He's a top player, but he's not part of the conversation right
because he's Bruno's best mate.
He's Bruno's best mate. And the reason why I say he's Bruno's best mate is not just because of that, is that if anyone's watched Lyon before Bruno came to Newcastle, is that their link up was like telepathy. They created magic together because they just know each other's game inside and out. And bringing him in, he would score goals for Newcastle. But we're talking about the Chelsea players now. And the reason why I'll probably go for this man here is because he's got the pressing and the work rate ability of the likes of Bruno, Joe Linton, and Willock. So he would complement that midfield really, really well. He can sit. And he did it a few times for Palace, where he can sit in and be that deeper role that Shelby would have picked up. But the key for me is that he scores goals. 8 goals last season, as Matty said. We haven't got a midfielder since the heroics of Willock on loan that scored that many goals in a season. Yeah. And I just think I would maybe take the risk in having or going with Wilson to provide a goal-scoring midfielder, because it would open up opportunities in the game that we don't currently have. So maybe Pulisic and Gallagher would be my choice, but it's a very fine line between Gallagher and Brozier for different reasons.
Which are you bringing in on loan and which are you purchasing?
Okay, so I would bring in, personally, I think I would pay a full fee for Pulisic because I think we could get him on a cheaper deal. We already know about the English tax in the Premier League, and with Gallagher fighting for a World Cup space and the fact that we've already been linked with him for 40 million, I think we could probably get Pulisic for a lot less than that. I think we could probably get him for about 25-30 million. So we're saving money that way, particularly if it's on that classic structured deal. And then we get Gallagher on loan with a view to buy next season, where we get a shed load of sponsors in, and that 40 million means nothing to Newcastle United. We're able to sign more players. So that's just my train of thought. I don't know if I'm wrong.
No, I'm happy with that option, but it's just I think getting Pulisic would be costly. I don't know we would have that we'd pay that amount at the moment. But look at and as Paul Oxley said, Amanda could have been just on the piss yesterday, and it could be linked to none of them. Even though Keith Downey's come out and mentioned a few names today. So in Keith, we trust.
She was on the pitch. She had a glass of wine in her hand and all the pictures. You know what I mean? She was loving it. Free drink.
Best owner ever. Love it. But look, it's like I say, that conversation I think is going to rumble on the Chelsea conversation for sure. It's one of them that's going to continue to be talked about purely because they've got so many players available that they can't possibly keep, and I think that's going to be a moving part over the course of the season, without a doubt. But look, we've got probably just about 10 minutes before we start to wind up the show, and I think a few more comments and questions are coming into the chat. So if you haven't put a question in for Matty or for the three of us, get your questions in now. Ask us anything Newcastle United related, and we'll get those answered between now and the end of the show. But Daz, I don't know if there's any other comments that are worth talking about or questions to Matty.
I hope people are putting a question mark at the end of it. That's how I know there's a question. There's one that you had. I think you might have started this one, Pete. Do you think we should buy? Who do you think we should buy to cover the loss of Shelby? If so, who do you think we would go for from Leon?
Got to be Paqueta, hasn't it? Got to be. If we're going to stay in the midfielder, it's got to be Lucas Paqueta. I mean, he wants to move. He's handling his transfer request. Bruno's best mate, as the thing he says. So it makes sense. Makes sense. But you mentioned the Bruno best mate thing, but it does. Like, the chemistry will be there.
Yeah.
The big thing about bringing in players is that, especially during the now that the pre-season's gone, is the time to gel, the time to work together. They wouldn't need that half as much because they know each other inside out from Leon and Brazil. So it would tick all those boxes. He'd be a star in our midfield, man. He'd be one of the best in the league. I said it when Bruno was saying he could play for anyone in the top six. So could Paqueta. I kind of believe the likes of Man United haven't came in for Paqueta with how bad their midfield is. McFred, like, they haven't got Paqueta. Arsenal, he's been linked with them for years. So I'd love to see Paqueta come in, but there's priority elsewhere for me. And if we're doing these installment deals, then it's got to be a right winger and a forward more than a midfielder.
I would agree with that. I think that's a fair point. Would you disagree with that, Daz? You say would you be all over Paqueta as the man to come in?
He was my number one target at the start of the transfer window, and then I had to readjust, and then the last week I started yes, he's coming back into play. But now with these low ball offers and the I'm getting worried again. Unless the whole deal is all there ready to press the button, and they just want to get the other deals lined up. But I don't think they would have waited this long if that was the case. And I don't believe the stories that Leon have dropped their price, though. I really don't believe that, because Leon will they'll know well that they'll get top dollar for him after the World Cup as well if they hang on to him. So I think if we want to get him, we have to go in with a decent bid to get him. But I'd love it, but I don't know. I think I'm setting myself up for disappointment if I put all my eggs in that Lucas Paqueta basket.
Yeah, interesting. Like Fumby said that Paqueta. Oh, sorry, guys. Paqueta did not hand in a transfer request. It's rumored to be that he has. It's rumored to be that he has handed in a transfer request and that he does want to leave, which is why there was the heightened, interest with the likes of Arsenal for a short period, Tottenham for a short period. We've been consistently linked with him, so it is rumored to be the case. Fumby, he wants out this summer. Leon are not playing in Europe. We're not playing in Europe, but we play in the Premier League, and he wants to play in the best league possible in order to improve his chances of performing at his best in the World Cup, because Brazil have got a genuine chance of winning it for sure. But yeah, it's an interesting one and one to keep an eye on. But I think there's a few more questions popping in. I think I've just started a few more. But
okay, great.
1 second. Oh, before the question comes on,
yeah, I started that one for you.
Making comments about this Vicar. This is the third. This is the fantastic, beautiful blue away kit. I'm not a vicar, but I've got to be honest, it does look like it a little bit.
Say some prayers, Pete, to get someone over the line before now and the end of that transfer window.
I say them every night. And it's praying for more signings, that is for sure. But yeah, thank you for that, from the Mole. Yeah, sorry, Daz, fire away with those questions.
Okay, what did it? Okay, so I didn't even read this one yet. Question from Matty, just for fun, but with a sense of realism attached. How long for us to win the Champions League?
Well,
Good question.
10 years minimum. 10 years minimum. Because you've got those dominant sides in the Champions League that are always there. Real Madrid, Liverpool still there. Juventus, it's going to take ages before we're anywhere near the level of having a squad to compete there, because it's not just how good are you on paper, it's how good are you when injuries hit, when you're playing 2 games a week, when you're playing Wednesday or Sunday. It's a lot asked of the players. So if we're in the Champions League within 5 years, I'll be absolutely buzzing. If we can win it within 10, then I don't know how I'll celebrate. I don't know how I'll be alive. I'll probably just go to Matty. We want a hell of a celebration, like.
Just a genuine question to both of you. How long do you think the city of Newcastle would party if we won, i.e. the FA Cup, the League, or the Champions League? If any one of them was our first trophy, how long do you think the city of Newcastle would party? And how long do you think you guys would be off work celebrating?
Mate, I mean, I think Boris Johnson would have to put in a lockdown, like just Newcastle in a lockdown, because it would just be on the streets for weeks. Do you know what I mean? The streets would be trashed. It'd be like the Page. Do you know what I mean? Everyone would just be drinking out, having a good time for at least a month. Do you know what I mean? It'd be mental.
Yeah.
I can probably afford a week of it, Pete, because it's going to cost me a bit to get over and to stay for a week. Yeah, just trying to be practical, because there'll be further trophies after that, so I want to be back to that as well. So, yeah, I'll budget for a week.
Definitely. Dan Brown in the chat said 6 months. Paul Gallant's just said a month. Tim C's just said a week of it is to put loads of champagne bottles. Russell Thompson said I'd retire and just stay out for weeks. I love it. But honestly, this is kind of just the thought I've always had in the back of my mind. If Newcastle won a trophy, I would vision myself being at the game where we won it. But I wouldn't be then traveling home, and I'm saying it with my wife in the kitchen. I wouldn't be traveling home. I'd be traveling with the rest of the Newcastle faithful back north to celebrate. And I'd have to ring in sick a few days, that's for sure. But I just, it sounds weird as talking about that, but the way the club's going, like it's going to be a reality at some point. Whether it's 3, 5, 7, 10 years. Winning a title or even a cup is that reality, and I can't wait for it. I cannot wait for it. But a few more questions in the chat.
Go for it, please.
Yeah. Okay. So, hold on.
Right. Oh no.
Sorry. 1 second. I'll click this one on here. Geordie Waster 84, great name. Forest has been able to track and signed 17 players so far this window, some decent signings. Why are we struggling so badly to attract players? Are we struggling to attract players, Matty?
I wouldn't say so. How much have Forest spent this window? I think it's about 120 million, is it? So they've spent a lot, but that's been 20 years in the making. That, you know what I mean? They've only just came up. They've had the biggest prize of all, the playoffs and the championship. That's the biggest cash injection you get. So that allows them to go a bit more in the window, you would say. And obviously we spent a chunk of our money in January, nearly 100 million. So you think altogether we're still in the lead in terms of spending in the last 9 months, 6 months over Forest. But I get what you're saying. But Forest also had a lot of players that left. They brought in 14 players, but like 10 of them left. So they either had no players, had no wage bill, had no nothing really. So a lot of the players last year were on loan. So that's how they've been able to do it. But I get what he's saying, and that's what a lot of people are saying. I thought you were the richest club in the world, but FFP's there for a reason, and until we get these big sponsorship deals in, unfortunately, there's nothing that much we can do about it.
I agree.
For me, like they brought in 17 players, but how many of those 17 players would get into the Newcastle squad? We want players that are going to be going to improve what we have. Maybe one or two of those would have, but not definitely not all 17 would. And as Matty said, yeah, they had a lot of loans last year, so that they really had to and they're going for it as well. They obviously want to stay in the Premier League, but if they don't, it's really going to backfire on them. What they've spent. So best look to them.
Yeah.
We're coming towards the end now. Matty, are you okay for just a couple of quick fire questions before we see out the show?
Yeah, mate, sound. No rush.
Okay. So Daz, I don't know if you want to pick a couple of questions out.
The ones you started. There was one there, Pete, for you. Do you do christenings? Was the question.
I can if you pay me.
Hey, added to the kitty for bringing a striker.
Yeah, too right.
Okay, well, let's go with this one. Even if we end up in 8th, 10th, do you think we will be in the conversation for European places late in the season? If we get a backup striker and a right winger, so. So I suppose, yeah, we'll even if we get if we don't or we do get a backup striker.
So even if we end up in 8th to 10th position, I think what he's asking is Leon's asking that regardless of whether we finish between 8th and 10th, when we get into the business end of the season, so like say like the last 5-6 games of the season, will we still be in contention for finishing in Europe at that stage? Will we still be talked about it? A little bit like, like when Arsenal and I think like Chelsea were fighting out and Tottenham for top 4. Right there, will we still be in that conversation? I think Leon's asking.
I think so. If we're going to back up striker and right winger, like Leon said, then there's this right winger and striker. If we get one or two of those, takes us up to the next level. If we get a right winger and striker, obviously of quality, that takes us into the position of 6th to 8th for me. If we go into this season with the squad we've got now, and we don't sign a right winger and striker, we finish anywhere from 9th to 12th for me. So I think it will go down to the wire if we do sign a right winger and a striker. I think we will still be in the mix, yeah. So hopefully we get those signings in and we'll have an exciting end of the season where we can push for a place in Europe.
Interesting. I think there's a couple more in there.
There's one from PDK again, and I think this is a bit of tongue in cheek. Will we win a trophy before we pay off the payments for Botman? I think he's still getting the dig in about all those payments that we have to do to bring in players. But
don't worry about it, PDK. Don't worry about it.
We've won from Shane, and it's about the game of the weekend against Man City. Will we revert to 5 at the back?
Possibly, especially if Matt Target's still injured. Yeah, I think so. You could see the return of Jamal Lascelles, joining Shaw and Botman as a 3, and then have Bain at the left back and then Trippier at right back. I think we could definitely see that, to be fair. I mean, we're going to have to high everything out of it, don't we? We can't expect much this weekend against Man City, so if we can stay in the game for as long as possible, make life difficult for them, and then be better on the counter than when we're at Brighton. Hopefully Maxi's going to have a good impact. He's due one of those games where he gets on the score sheet or gets an assist for me, so that's going to be the key.
Okay, interesting. Right, one more. One more.
Do you have one, Pete? Or
there's one here actually. There's this one here from Liam. So, would you take Morelos, the Rangers striker? He can score goals when Rangers play in Europe. Can score a few goals. Would he be someone that you'd bring in maybe as a backup?
Definitely. I would have Morelos, wasn't he? He was linked quite heavily with Newcastle a couple of years ago. I remember that January window, there was talks of a bid happening, but it never materialised. Morelos is a right handful. It's really hard to judge the Scottish League, though, isn't it? Because it isn't the best league. We all know that. So, like he says, he's scored goals in the Europa League at the knockout stages as well. So, I would definitely take him as backup. Absolutely. There's question marks over his character, though, isn't he? Bit of a hothead, a lunatic. So maybe doesn't quite fit in the dressing room there. Like.
As a replacement for Chris Wood, yes, I'd take him.
Oh,
But,
wife instead of Chris Wood. You know what I mean? He's got one. Love his wife, love his kid. You know what I mean? Whatever you want.
Exactly.
Definitely. Look, I'm going to sneak one more in. I apologise, Matty, because I think it's quite an interesting one from Joseph Booker. I know we want Joao Pedro, and actually, just to say, there has been an update tonight from Fabrizio Romano that says that Newcastle are pushing to sign Joao Pedro from Watford. New proposal expected soon after an opening bid rejected. Been told the first proposal was 20 million plus 3 million in add-ons. Newcastle will try again soon. So the lads on the Geordies Down South chat have just put that in. That's a Fabrizio Romano update. But obviously, we're looking at Joao Pedro. Is there anyone else from the EFL Championship that you would look at and look to bring in?
Nah, not for me. I think we're beyond that now. What we're linked from that Brett Diaz from Blackburn, that was heavily linked last summer. I think for where we're at, we should be able to get players from in and around the Championship. We should be targeting teams like we have done with Maddison at Leicester. Those type of teams that we want to catch up to just above us. That's the we should be trying to take their players off. Do you know what I mean? I like the Broyers of this world on loan. Like that's the kind of deals that make sense. The Ivan Tonys from Brentford even. Do you know what I mean? Not Championship players now. Surely we've got more about them than that. But if there wasn't to take one, it would have probably been Dennis Ossor, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Or the Burnley players that have all gone as well.
Cornet,
Like McNeil, Cornet, and we already got Pope. So we got a good deal there already.
No one from you, Daz? No one from you? From
no, the only one I'm just thinking about the clubs went down, and I'm thinking Norwich, and like he's gone very quiet in the last while. But Max Aarons, he still gets mentioned. But apart from that, but we've got Trippier, so if he'd have to come as an understudy to Trippier, but no one else stands out. I can't think of anyone at the moment.
No, I think that's fair. I think you guys have said some of the players that I was thinking about. Maybe Sanderberg in midfield. I do rate him at Sheffield United. We talked about him in the full load of transfer shows over January. I think he's been linked with going back to Belgium, but I think there's a couple of other teams in England that are looking at him at the moment. Talented player. I've got a Sheffield United mate that I know really well, and I apologise for saying this, but I was actually really surprised he went there because he was linked with Man United and being in Europe, and then he went to Sheffield United and stayed with them for 2 years, and I'm surprised by that. I think he could really make a difference for us, but I think they'll ask for too much money. But that's another conversation for another day. Matty, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on your first appearance for the United series. Hopefully, we'll have you back at some point, down the line if you're happy to come on. I hope you've enjoyed it, mate.
100%, lads. Anytime, mate. Drop us a message. I'll jump on. It's been a pleasure, boys. Thanks for asking us to come on, and shout out everyone for tuning in.
No problem. And just plug your channel just before we leave. Where can we find you?
The Magpie Channel TV. The Magpie Channel TV on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all of that. Check it out. Let's go.
Go for it. We do at Loaded. Make sure you guys do as well. Matty, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for your time as we sort out the sponsors. You take care, mate.
See you guys.
Thanks, Matty. Have a good evening. Good luck.
Bye.
Pleasure having Matty on. As you said, Pete, look, we've been watching the Magpie Channel long before we were ever on YouTube. So, that's great to meet Matty. And next time we see him outside St. James Park, we'll go over and say hello as well.
We were talking about it. We weren't sure because he was still with the fan cams whether to go over or not. But to be fair, I mentioned it to Matty when we were speaking, and I said I was going to come over, but the lads were, but we weren't sure if we were like getting in the way. And he was like, nah. He's like, next time, make sure you come over and say hello. So we'll keep you to that, Matty. We'll make sure that we will the next time we see you around St. James's or away games. But pleasure to have him on. Really, really good. And I think it's time for a quick sponsor.
Round. And let people know what's coming as well during the week. So first of all, the sponsors. So shout out to Simon, whoever is in the chat, apart from that one night that he was out drinking with us. So shybarnes.com. And you can go and see the range that Simon has, the hats, t-shirts, and you have to go to the website to get the latest and greatest, really, because he's now and again he updates the range as well. So go check that out. And of course, you can get the loaded T-shirt there as well, and the loaded mug and the loaded water bottle, and 2 pins and prints, and the range that Dean has there. Again, he's got a new collection, or he's got a new shower one coming out according to Richie. So keep an eye out for that. And I'm sure as more goals go in, he'll have more different posters to put out. So that's something to look forward to as well. And to Retro NUFC, and I see today that Retro NUFC I think he has a 20% sale on. So go check out the latest range he has and get your offers in. And also then a shout out to Machine House and Marty. And Marty was on to us on the WhatsApp today. I must actually reply back to him. And of course the range that Marty has, and the hoods and the T-shirts, and I think he's got the new range coming out pretty soon. So that's it for the sponsors. As Pete mentioned at the start, we had Semra Hunter on last night. It was a great show. If you haven't seen that, check that out. Talking about La Liga and then linking it back into Newcastle, and some of the targets were linked to. So very interesting. And you also know the review shows and were there, and the away days, and the fully loaded transfer show. And speaking of fully loaded transfer show, we have another one coming up on Wednesday. And Pete, I'll hand that over to you.
We're back. I think it's episode 11 now.
Yeah,
which is just crazy to think that we've done 11 weeks of full loaded transfer shows. But you know what? We promised that we were going to bring you a weekly dose of transfer news for all things Newcastle, and we're back Wednesday, 8 o'clock. Jordan Cronin will be joining us. Lee hopefully will be joining us. We may have another special guest in there as well. And we're planning on, and I have to say this, a couple of real special guests that are going to come and join us again in the next week or two in the build up to the transfer window. Don't be surprised if we've got some real snapshot shows that you may not be seeing too much promotion about, but we just come with them as the news breaks. So hold on tight for that, because I've got a feeling the next couple of weeks is going to be a bit of a bumpy ride with lots and lots of Newcastle news available. So yeah, we'll bring all the news to you, all the guests, all the latest information, and of course our opinions. So really looking forward to that.
Exactly, and I have a feeling I'll be doing a lot of posters in the next 3 weeks. All the posters I've already done, it doesn't look like it's happening. Well, I hope at least one of them comes in, because they're pretty good posters. But see, yeah, we'll be back with my away days as well, and a reaction show. But yeah, if you're subscribed, yeah, you'll see when it pops up. And as Pete said earlier, make sure to hit the like button on this show as well. But that's pretty much it. I think we'll probably say goodnight to everyone now, Pete. Yeah.
Yeah, just before you go, as you leave the stream, just click the thumbs up on the way out. We've got lots already that have clicked the thumbs up, and I thank you to all of you that have done that. Just on your way out, if you've not subscribed, click the subscribe and click that thumbs up. It means more people can see the channel and more people can see this particular show as well. So yeah, support the channel that way. Click that thumbs up, and yeah, we'll be back for more this week. We don't
more
stop
punishment.
ever. Yeah.
Good night or good evening, everyone. Talk to you later. Eddie, Eddie, Eddie. How. How.